Education meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Ackerman, roll call, please.
Mr. Trombley.
Yes.
Dr. Krebs.
Here.
Mrs. Mitchell.
Here.
Mr. Stahl.
Here.
Mrs. Reed.
Here.
Mr. Birchfield.
Here.
Mr. Myers.
Here. All right. Do we have a motion to approve tonight's agenda as presented? So moved. Mr. Trombley.
Support.
Supported by Ms. Reed. Any discussion? I think there's an updated version in front of everybody for
Page 16.
it's the Ford Transit 350 box truck for page 16.
That is for action item C, I think.
Yes, it is.
Or is that D? That's D.
It's
actually
I apologize, that's D.
Oh, well,
It says
because it's
350.
350, so it is item
Page
D.
16, yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Passes 7-0. That moves us into our call to the public this evening. If anyone wishes to address the board, please step to the podium. We ask that you state your name, address, and limit comments to 3 minutes.
Where's the public?
Right here.
In front of me.
Good evening, my name is Jessica Ryder. Address is 10484 Piedmont Drive, Brighton, Michigan. I'm a mother at Spencer Elementary, and I met with Dr. Gray last week, and I just wanted to say to the board I appreciated the time he gave us with some of the concerns we're having regarding the class size at Spencer Elementary. We have 3 classes, 2 with 29 and 1 with 28. And in addition to, with that size, we've seen a lot of issues with some of our children, some emotional and physical issues with that, in addition to just the strains of having that many kids in such a small class. And 2 of the classes are open floor plan, as Spencer is that way, divided by a bookshelf. So really you have 58 kids and 2 teachers in an open area with a lot of distractions going on. So thank you for addressing it.
Thank you. How was it addressed?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I had a meeting with Dr. Gray on Friday, and he will be sitting in
Was there today?
was there today, and I don't know, maybe.
Mr. Irvine's going as well, and as well as Ms. Shelley Helson.
So it's a step 1, seeing what we're hearing from our children coming
Yeah.
home.
Hi, I'm Megan Sleuth. My address is 5201 Kennecott Trail. Thank you, Dr. Gray, for coming to the classrooms. I'm here for the same reason, Spencer Elementary, 1st grade. And we're so happy that you're taking a minute to hear this. I'm hearing stories from my daughter, like my fingers are getting stepped on every day, and I'm afraid of being smushed. And these are very alarming to me. As a former teacher, I just feel like, what is going on in the classroom? And I feel like there's too many bodies in there. I want to say we super support our teachers. I love teachers, and I don't think it's anything the teachers doing. I think that it's just too many bodies in a small space. So we really appreciate you taking a minute to hear this, coming to visit the classrooms, and we look forward to some positive results.
Thank you.
Eric Holsma, 8790 Heine Road, Brighton, Michigan. My son is in the 1st grade Spencer Elementary classes as well. I don't know if this is really the place to ask questions, but I have heard from several parents that the 1st grade classes have been evacuated due to behavior issues a couple times. And even if we weren't able to get the information I understand that we may not get all the specifics, but none of us like hearing from our kids that the class was evacuated. If we can't get the specifics, that may be fine, but I don't know if we have a right to know if our kids are getting kicked out of the classroom and then being brought back into the classroom. So, among other things, that is why I'm here as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, as far as generic, the principal can communicate that with you. And I plan on meeting again with Ms. Reeder here at the end of the week. We had set another meeting to talk about class size and those types of things. So we'll see what happens after we evaluate this week and go from there.
Hi, my name is Jen Frenzer, I live at 5082 Bradford Court in Brighton. I have a daughter and a son that attend Spencer. I'm here for the same reason, for class size reduction. I do research earlier, so I researched a lot on the class size reduction. Sometimes people have quoted to me that class size reduction is not effective when it comes to academia. I could show you plenty of articles I found, meta-analysis in regards to making a huge difference, especially from kindergarten to 3rd grade, in reducing our size. So I'm here representing 1st grade, but I'd also like to say the reason that we moved to Brighton was because of the ratio. On the website, it's 19.5 to 1. I chose Brighton because I saw that lower ratio, and I was very disappointed to hear that my son is in a 29 to 1. I don't think that the teachers are able to be as creative as they could be if there was a smaller class size. So I would appreciate you taking this into consideration, and thank you, Dr. Gray, for coming and being an observer to see what we can do to make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to address the board this evening?
Where did the 19 to 1 come from?
It's a district average.
District average.
So it takes every single class into consideration. So if you have a band class with 250 kids in it, that's
Right.
also in that average. Our goal across the academic classrooms is 25 to 1. It's typically where we end up. We get fluctuations from year to year in terms of that, and we try to stay below obviously the teacher's cap.
Because I know this isn't the first time it's come up here about class size, and I know you've explained it in the past. So what's our maximum that we're
So
allowed?
if you look at it, JK's at 20 plus 2. Kindergarten's at 24 plus 2, so you can go to 26. 1st through 3rd grade used to be 28, and still is today, with a plus 2 to 30.
Right.
And then 4th grade used to be a 30 with a plus, actually it used to be 31 with a plus 2 to 33 for 4th grade. And then everything above that used to be 30 up to 35 to 1, 33 with a plus 2. We took, I think it was 4 years ago, and moved 4th grade down from 31 to 28 because it's in the same building with all the elementaries. That was more of the case when it was split up. And then that's been the big, and then we moved Maltby this year off of the 33 to 1 to the 31 to 1. Those conversations sometimes happen at the bargaining table, not always. And I think those numbers have, I think the challenge, those numbers have been in place as far as I can look back, maybe 40, 50 years, but they weren't always met. So, you know, they might have run, and it happens to us too. There's some other maybe grade levels across that have 24, 23, 20. It just depends on which residents show up and how it gets balanced, but they're all somewhere in that range. But that's the 19.5 to 1. You have to look at the entire district.
Sure.
So that, I don't think that's as accurate as a number or there's no explanation, the state pulls that number and gives it to us, so that one we have no control.
Got it.
Okay, thank you.
And if anybody would like to meet group-wise, I think I reached out to Megan
Thank you.
at a time on Thursday or Friday too, we can run through all your questions.
Can I ask a question?
Be better if we just came in and did it at one time, it's not really the setting.
Well, I just wanted to clarify
Yeah.
what you were saying about numbers, that
Yeah.
+2 to a
Plus
different
two
number, is
is-
that like another educator or?
No, a
Or
plus two would mean in every single class, if kindergarten can have 24, we pay what's called an overload for 25 and 26. So we pay the teacher additional dollars
I see.
for those two kids. Usually we try to schedule under that, because we don't know if they're gonna be move-ins throughout the year, because you could get 3 or 4 move-ins, and you don't wanna go, because if you get over, you have to go the normal class size first, then you have to put overloads, and then if you're over that, that's when you open another section, when you've exhausted all the seats in that particular grade. So literally the first grade you're talking about could go 30, 30, 30, until somebody hit a 31, and then another section would be in. That's how that works, typically. But we'll take a look at that. That's why we're on the.
Thank you. All right, that'll close the call to the public this evening and move us to the superintendent report. Dr. Gray.
Yeah, we got Chloe Burke back, and she's going to talk a little bit about Pink Week and the exciting festivities.
Hi everybody, thank you so much for having me here tonight. So we just had another very successful Pink Week. We had a lot of events that took place that raised a lot of awareness, donations, and support for cancer. Some events we had were the Powder Puff football game, we had a Pink Idol choir competition, we did a car wash here, and we also had some Dine to Donate fundraisers at Mod Pizza and Jack's Custards. So there was a lot of participation from everybody, and it was really great. Also, at the end of the week, the whole community came together at the Brighton football game, and I'm on the POM team, so I have a great view of the whole bleachers, and it was so cool to look down and see everyone wearing pink, so that was really great. And also, at the end of the game, we had a jersey dedication, where all the POM cheerleaders and football gave their pink out jerseys to people fighting cancer, so that was really powerful. So overall, Pink Week was very successful, and it really touched everyone's hearts. So coming up, as you may know, it's homecoming week, and we have some great events to look forward to this week. We have the parade on Friday, the football game on Friday, and also the homecoming dance on Saturday for high schoolers. One new thing we're doing this year is incorporating our spirit days with the other schools in the district, so we're going to see how that goes. Also coming up, we have some band and choir performances that will be pretty good. There are more details on our website. Also, I'd just like to recognize the mountain biking team at our school for winning their 6th state championship in a row. It's pretty incredible. And lastly, we have exams coming up in a few weeks as we wrap up our first marking period. No. So at the next board meeting, there will be more details about Pink Week and the check with how much we raised.
Thanks, Chloe. The only other thing I had, and it's preliminary numbers, but our fourth Wednesday count was last week. Looks like somewhere in the range of about 250 over projected, but obviously probably 200 of those will be shared service. The rest will be in district. We're still working through those numbers. One of the other things that we're pretty happy about, remember we're always trying to get our elementaries to be similar in size and numbers, so the high would be Horning at 550, Hawkins 510, Hilton 511, and Spencer 506. So some pretty good parity amongst those buildings. If you look at Sprint, you got 884 and Mulvey 872, so we're right there parity-wise with them. Then you got the high school that's listed at 2126, but you have to remember there's about 80 consortium kids in that number, so you're going to take 2/3 of that and knock it down some. So that building is probably 2070 to 2100, depending on what hour you're in. And then again, you throw in your shared service, and we'll probably end up somewhere in the 84-ish range, 8450 range when it's all when we work through all the different numbers. So it'll be a process for the next several months as we go through all our audits and all that process. But that's just some preliminary numbers for you. If you look at school of choice, We actually see that hovering at the same, we're starting to decline a little bit. We had some more residents, I would say, coming in the last, I would say 2 years, we've seen an uptick in that. Kindergarten's hovering at about that 17 and a half, so working back towards that 15% and then adjusting from there. So once we have fall count, obviously that's 90% of our funding. Spring count is 10% of our funding. We call that our blended count. Our blended count last year was about 8,163. So if you added about 253 to that, you get close to the number that we're looking at for this year, at 84, 85, somewhere in that range. And so it's good news. The bridge hovers at right about 100, 102, depending on the day, which is a good number for us there too. We graduate about 30 kids a year from there. So all in all, solid numbers.
Will you have a breakdown for us again this year on the
School of choice percentages
by building, class,
Yep.
individual class?
We're chasing the numbers right now, so once we want it to be accurate, so, and there's a lot of them starting the people accounting auditing process, so we'll have it for you shortly.
Okay.
We'll run it by grade, we'll run it by building, we'll do all that kind of stuff.
And then with the increase in count, or at least projected or preliminary,
Yeah.
what type of revenue?
Well, you'd have to multiply it by 8,111. That's the new per pupil funding level, because they added 240 because we're the base district. So we're the 2 times formula, whereas other districts receive the 120 that were at the top. So you'd have to look at that, but you'd have to offset the 200 in shared service, because remember that they're not straight kids for us, so you're looking at more of a 20, 25. We're trying to eat 25% of revenue out of that particular group. So I'm supposed to meet with our shared service coordinator, and Sharon and I and Mike probably a little later this week. So we'll have budgetary numbers done by that point. Let me put it to you this way, on our Excel spreadsheet for shared services, we had 12,000 columns, 1.4 million cells in that one spreadsheet alone, so it's pretty complex, but we should have most of the numbers by Friday.
Okay.
So we'll start to trickle that out and do a full presentation.
So when you're giving the numbers for shared services, these are students and not FTEs?
No, our FTEs in that are 2388, so that's our FTE. That would comprise probably close to 12 or 13,000 students actually, but part-time schedule. That's what makes it such a complex problem.
Thank you.
What will be the timing for the next amended budget?
January. Yeah. We like to go January. I mean, we could push one out in November, December, but we've always had such good closeness on our final amendment because we wait till January to amend it the first time. We have all our pupil accounting done, we have all our bills in, and we can really give you a realistic amendment the first time. That's why you don't see a ton of variance from year to year.
Okay. Thank you.
Then the second one will come in that June date that you typically. Oh, I forgot to mention that we budgeted flat. So our enrollment budget was flat, and our per pupil budget was 150 instead of the 240, just for purposes.
When does that energy bond go away?
This year, we pay off the last.
I had to throw it in there.
I think it's $2 million. I think we pay off the last $2 million this year.
What's the date on that?
May. Yeah, it's May. That'll kick you another 500,000. Yeah. Because we've been paying that out of the general fund for several years now.
I couldn't resist, sorry.
Yeah. John would be proud.
For those that don't know, this has been an ongoing discussion at board table for many years, so.
That's all I have.
Okay, let's move into for action. Item A, regular meeting minutes of September 23rd, 2019. Do we have a motion to approve? Move. By Mr. Trombley, supported by Ms. Mitchell. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? And then 2 abstentions. Item B, donation VAS Pack of Dogs program. Dr. Gray.
Per board policy 7230, we would recommend that you accept the $1,000 donation from Charlotte's Litter for the BAS Pack of Dogs program as presented.
So moved.
Support?
Moved moved by Mr. Stahl, supported by Ms. Reed. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? That passes 7-0, and with great gratitude to Charlotte's Litter for this generous donation. Item C. No.
Oh, we got to
You gotta reject the first ones and then approve the other two.
Yeah, okay. Item C, F-350 pickup truck bid.
Mr. Engelford's gonna take the next three for you.
Okay.
You ran the bid process.
As the board is aware, we did open public.
Motion to fix the roof?
That sounds like a pest control problem.
No, that's not.
Thought it was a range. Crawl up there later and check it out.
Never's dull in here, is it?
As we discussed at the previous meeting, we did have a public bid opening on the 16th of September for a F-350 pickup truck. We did present bids at that point after doing our due diligence, looking over the bids and looking at alternate options. I would like to recommend that the board reject all bids from that bid opening, as we found an alternative way to save additional dollars for the district, which you will see better described under item E.
Item E.
Item E will be the replacement for what I'm asking you to do now.
Can you share some details about item E so that we know why we're rejecting this one?
Absolutely. So basically, we had the public bid opening. There were 4 bids brought in from 2 different dealerships. The low bid was from Brighton Ford at $39,000, almost $40,000. In looking at it through alternate sources in which I've gone through before, mostly the My Deal program, which was a statewide bid program, but also we tagged on with the cooperative purchase through Macomb County. They had bid Ford vehicles out for the 2019 model year. The bid for the Macomb bid contract was significantly less than what we were getting in our own local bid. You're just spreading that pool out across a much larger position. So the price was a lot better. So I thought it best for the board to reject these bids and entertain buying a vehicle through that process.
I'll tell you the other problem we run into, and we're gonna have to think about it differently as we purchase vehicles moving forward is, so we have let's say we put out an RFP and a dealership bids, and they bid a particular vehicle. Car dealerships are in the business of turning over vehicles, right? So a 4-week process for us to get to where we actually purchase it from them is unrealistic. They're always gonna sell that car before we get a chance to actually take delivery, and then we're bringing you different ones. That's why the My Deal website works a lot better. They're just consortium bid prices that you don't have to go through the bidding process. You find it online, you bring it in front of your board, and you purchase it.
What is the minimum, is it a maximum that you're allowed?
No shame after the discussion.
No. Well,
Fair enough.
that's,
Sorry
yeah,
about that.
that's fair. So, we need a motion to reject, and then we can open it up for discussion. So do we have a motion to reject the bid for item C?
Do we have a motion to reject it, or do we have a motion to just?
You're gonna accept that by rejecting.
Yeah.
You're gonna make a motion to accept our recommendation.
Yes.
Okay.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept the recommendation to reject the bid, which is Stahl and Krebs. Okay. Now, discussion.
My question was, what is the minimum that you're allowed to approve without the consent of the board?
I think this year it's 24,000.
It's like just under 25,000.
24,823 or something. There's a formula that the state does every year for public bidding. I don't know how they come up with it, but every year it's right around, the last several years hovered right around that 24,500, 24,800. It must go up with inflationary costs or something. There's an uptick to it every year.
Based on CPI.
So perhaps the change would be something where we authorize a vehicle in advance or something?
No, remember, what we're talking about with it's called the My Deal website.
Right.
It's trucks across the state of Michigan that have already been bid. So we don't have to go through the public RFP process. They've already done it for us. So when we see a vehicle on their piece, we don't have to go through a 6-week process. We can bring it right in front of you and say, this is already bid, it meets the specs, it meets the state certification of $24,823. We want you to approve this, and they're not, those trucks are sitting there waiting to get purchased. They're not on a dealership lot rolling over as fast as they can, because that's how they make money. That's the difference.
Thank you.
Mr. John?
So I'd like to go back to a couple things, and I think one of the things that probably should be done when we do put this type of things out for bids is that we would give the people that we are sending the solicitations to a time frame as to when it would be voted on and when it would be approved, so they could look at what they would have in stock or coming into stock, so they'd be able to quote it, so they don't have to sit there and sit on it and hold it for the period of time.
Lose money.
And, yeah, lose money on it, number one. Also, one thing, by going through the consortium, I get the fact that there is savings there. But, you know, if you look at where the vehicle is coming from, it's still coming from a dealer. It's still ordered. It's not going to be delivered tomorrow if we approve it tonight. They still have to order it and bring it in. So there's some time factor there. And furthermore, from a local dealership that, you know, supports the school district, has the people in Brighton that deal with them, that give back to the community. To me, you know, these are all factors that we need to look at to see if it really outweighs the price or not. So moving forward with these types of things, I'd like to see maybe, you know, I don't know, I'd hate to say a better bidding process, but maybe a clearer spec written with some more information in it before it does go out for bids.
What was that?
Is it proper to get this consortium price, and can you share that? I mean, you still have to let, if you're bringing that information and you're going, okay, we're still gonna let local bid it.
So dealerships would have to go to this My Deal website if they wanted to participate. So if Brighton wanted to participate in this particular, Brighton Ford wanted to participate in this particular website, they could do it and also provide the vehicles to that. I don't know what the process is, because I don't want a dealership.
Because outside of this system, I mean, it would be counterpractice, I'd say, to go find that price and then come back and say to your local, hey, can you meet it?
That would
But I
be
know
a
you
big
can't do
no-no
that.
for us.
Yeah, I know you can't do that.
Big no.
It's actually subsidized by the government,
Yeah.
and that's how the prices are reduced.
Right.
And it's a, I don't know if it's a 2-year or a 3-year, you know, that you bid it, and then it's good for that period of time. But again, there's set prices
Right.
that are even less than what the dealer can sell it for. Even when the dealer buys it for it, it's less.
Right.
Yeah, it's done on municipal pricing, and it's bid out by the state every year based on the model year. So the dealerships themselves will actually bid the pricing on it. I know, like these will be through Signature Ford of Wausau, and they often land a lot of those Ford contracts. Gorno Ford also picks up quite a few of them. So it's just a statewide bid, so you get the lowest price, and it is municipal pricing, so it's really only for schools, cities, counties, other municipalities.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor, again, as a reminder, this is to reject the bid that was originally presented. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? That passes 7-0. Item D, box truck bid, which is the updated version that everybody should have in front of them.
All right, as we discussed at the last meeting as well, we also had a bid out for a Ford box truck, 12 or 14-foot box truck. At the last meeting, we had recommended to take the low bid from Brighton Ford. Unfortunately, Brighton Ford was no longer able to fulfill that bid. We did move on, doing our due diligence, looked at the The next lowest, which was from Todd Wenzel Buick GMC, they did bid an alternate bid. It certainly wasn't a Ford coming out of a Buick dealership, but it was a GMC 3500 cutaway van model. That is a good axle that we're willing to accept. We did, just for the board's knowledge, we did look at the same thing, buying through the Macomb County bid process as well. The prices were very similar. I think the difference was about $650, but that one was higher, so I did do my due diligence there as well, but I thought it was $650 was $650, and this was an acceptable alternate, so we decided to move forward with this recommendation.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Reed, supported by Mr. Myers. Any discussion? Mr. Trump.
So again, going back to this truck, I believe Brighton Ford was a low bid on the original one. And when you say they couldn't supply it, again, they're not holding inventory. So with no time frame as to when it would be approved, if someone comes in to buy the vehicle, they're gonna sell it to them, and then I can sit there and hold it. Again, I'd go back to my original statement about some kind of time frame put on these, whether it's being bid. But also when you look at it, when you spec a Ford vehicle, and then you say, acceptable alternate to Chevy, I don't know if that's really the truth or not. I mean, it fits your needs, but how do you compare Ford to Chevy and the price that goes along with it?
Mostly looking at gross vehicle weight ratings and all that kind of.
Well, again, I'm just going back to the point, and I would hope, and I don't know if you're doing this or not, but there would be some correspondence back to these dealers to the fact that maybe other than a phone call or maybe something in writing, and the fact of why they weren't successful in getting the bid for what they put their time and effort into. Because it takes time and effort for every one of these guys to quote these things. So, that's it. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? Passes 7-0. Item E, F-250 pickup truck bid.
So for item E, this is the replacement for what we rejected in item C. We did do our due diligence, and like I said, we went through the Macomb County bid on this one. We did look at the F-350 and the F-250, which was an option. Outside of 300 pounds of weight capacity, the 250 met our needs. We really didn't need to spend the additional money for the 350. In addition to that, along with the Macomb contract, this truck is actually a pool truck. It's already sitting at Knapheide for upfitting, so we're prepared to add a plow to that, which that was our plan with the previous bid, so it wasn't included. We're going to add a plow and a spray and bed liner, all for a not to exceed amount of $35,285.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve? So moved by Mr. Stahl, supported by Mr. Krebs. Any discussion?
Again, I was going to ask, did you go back out to the people that you originally solicited the 350 to ask them for a price on the 250?
I did not in this instance, no.
Would that have been the right thing to do or no?
I think because we had a public bid opening for an actual spec, we wouldn't be allowed to go out and then solicit a 250 bid against this price.
Well, but you changed the spec.
Right.
You'd have to run a bid.
I'd have to run an entire bid.
Correct.
So I did not do that. Based on the price differential on the 350s, comparing the two, I didn't see the need to do that. I thought our due diligence had been met. I thought the price was a good price, and what we had done was what was necessary.
When you say the price differential on the 350s, you're comparing to what we received in our bid process and what you could see on My Deal?
Correct.
Do Do we have, so just from one understanding of the plow, we contract the plow services out.
We do
So-
parking lots, we don't do sidewalks, we do sidewalks in-house. So the bigger sidewalks, it'd be nice to have one district vehicle, because a lot of times they'll come through and plow at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning, and we might get a little snow after that that doesn't hit our trigger. Our trigger's over, I think it's a 2-inch trigger for the plow, and so we'll be able to go around and drop the plow on our sidewalks as opposed to having to bring other people in to do that constantly.
So we do not currently have a vehicle with a plow on it?
We have gators that have plows on it, but they're not as effective as vehicles. Or we have 4-wheelers too, but it takes an immense amount of time. You're looking at, take Maltby sidewalk, for example, it's a good example. It would take them 2.5 hours to do that, where with the truck, we could do it in 20 minutes.
Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Passes 7-0. That will close 4 action items tonight, and that will move us into 4 future action. Item A is donation auto tech program. Dr. Gray.
In a couple weeks, we'll be recommending that you accept a donation of 4 engines valued at $9,000 to the Brighton High School Auto Tech Program, and they were donated graciously from GM Global Asset Recovery. They'll go to our engine room, and they'll be torn down and rebuilt and then tested on our dime.
Any questions?
Dyno running?
Hmm?
You heard the dyno run this year yet?
I haven't been over there when they ran, so I don't know. I'll have to check.
All right, item B, donation VAS Pack of Dogs program.
Also, in a couple weeks, we'll recommend per board policy 7230 that you accept the offer of $8,500 from the Randy Wise Auto Group team for the pack of dogs. Now, we have all dogs presently, so this will go into an account for future costs and future bills.
I noticed that this is not a one-time donation, this is a continuing donation.
So that's my understanding.
Could you, I know back earlier this summer, we talked about a sustainable way of maintaining the dogs without the general fund. Could you give us an update on that, please?
Yeah, so we looked at a couple different options. One was our beverage contract through vending. We haven't found any savings at all from our present vending. Plus, if we were to shift money from our present vending options to the pack of dogs, we would be taking from someplace else in the district. The only option through vending would be to add additional vending, which we've had a couple of, not bids, but people come out and look at, and we haven't found really enough bang for our buck to move forward on that yet, so we've looked for other alternate options as well. Karen Story and I met a couple of different times to talk about future endeavors or where dollars could come from for this particular program, or if we do want to move forward with additional vending.
When is that decision to be made up? Because again, I think the directive we gave at the board meeting, maybe I'm wrong, but for you to come back with some type of viable solution, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm just trying to,
I don't think POP is the way to go.
okay.
So we'll have to find something.
What were some of the other suggestions then?
POP was the original one. I haven't had any other suggestions.
Okay, so then is that something that you're gonna continue to look in, or is that someone else that's gonna try to come up with some kind of program, or what's?
Karen and I meet about every other week on this, so we're trying to come up with different ways to sustain it. That's part of the problem.
Okay.
Do I remember correctly, is there an insurance plan or something on them if they get ill?
So our dogs are treated like our employees. They're part of the school system, so they fall under our liability insurance. Now, if they get sick, we either get donated services from local veterinarians or we use some of the money that we have. We had one dog recently that were having seizure issues, so we had to use some of the money for treatment for that dog.
Is this a topic that warrants more discussion at a workshop?
I think so, especially the revenue piece, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll make sure it gets added on to the agenda in that space.
money or something?
Yeah. You're paying attention. Yeah, we get it. Item C, Neola policies, first reading. Dr. Gray.
You're gonna have Ms. Irvine do this?
Oh, Mr. Evans?
Okay, we have 4 policies that this policy subcommittee has met to recommend some revisions. The first, it relates to due process rights. That's just really an update where the position of those to whom appeals may be directed are updated for the role that I serve in, which is that expulsion and long-term suspension of hearing officer. So that places, that updates that language. It also clarifies the conditions under which a student may ask for a private hearing, and that really pertains to meetings under the Open Meetings Act where quorum is required. So that just clarifies the types of hearings under which that may be necessary. So that's really minimal changes to the first policy. The next 3 policies are all reflective of the district's approach to managing the requirements under the Paid Medical Leave Act. It is a requirement that all agencies that are qualify or at least meet the eligibility requirements adopt policies related to us, and we have chosen a path for each of our employee groups. Our first group related to professional staff, we do have such a large cohort of shared services non-affiliated teachers that we wanted to make sure that we chose, we didn't necessarily adopt anything that's under the VEA agreement. We went to accepting and devising our own paid medical leave language. And in that leave language, rather than accruals, we're preferring to pick the front load option. That's just an administrative opportunity for us to manage that a little better. That means that paid medical leave will be added to an employee at the time of hire, so that it's available to them as if they were operating under a collective bargaining agreement. So we are choosing that route, or at least that's the recommendation moving forward, front-loading 40 hours as required, and then allowing those that are under that particular act to take that leave in half-day or full-day increments. That leave would not be paid out at the end, and it would be, it would start over, reset in the next year. So that's the way that we are handling the professional staff language. As far as administration is concerned, we are going to bypass medical leave language and instead adopt the rights that are under the VASA agreement. We have very few non-affiliated administrators, and where we have, they've adopted those rights that are under the collective bargaining agreement. So because leave is already included in that collective bargaining agreement, and we afford that to non-affiliated as well, we have no requirements or responsibilities under the act different than what we're doing at this time. So we're just choosing to adopt that section rather than moving into the Paid Medical Leave Act. Moving to support staff, we are choosing the path, or at least recommending the path that we chose or used with the professional staff, which is once again to choose a front load method for our non-affiliated, granting 5 hours of paid leave time up front, and then allowing them to use it in half-day increments with no option to carry it over to the next year, but rather to have that replace that next year. So pretty straightforward at this point in terms of the recommendations here.
I have a question, just to make sure that I understand how this works with our collective bargaining agreements. You mentioned a couple of times that this was for the unaffiliated staff members, so this lives next to our collective bargaining agreements. It doesn't set the floor or the ceiling for how we handle our collective bargaining arrangements.
Well, it would if our collective bargaining agreements offered fewer rights than were available under the Paid Medical Leave Act. But because they don't, we already are barred by There's nothing that we need to do under the collective bargaining agreements, we're well past that. If we had collective bargaining agreements that didn't, we would have to go back and revisit, and make adjustments, to our collective bargaining agreements.
And this language doesn't supersede the collective
No.
bargaining agreements?
No, it does not.
Thank you.
Did these go in front of the policy committee for review?
Yes,
Okay.
they did.
I'm assuming that's the case. Okay.
I
And
do
we have great new redlining tools, if that's.
I was waiting. I was waiting. At least you gotta say something about it.
I was so excited, I finally got a legal redline.
2 years.
There is one additional piece of language I neglected to say that is a substantive change for the Board of Education if they choose to adopt this, and that is, this does move leaves of absences away from the board table and places them within the Human Resources Department rather than for a board vote. And that is something that if these policies are accepted, that will do, as revised or as recommended.
Thank you. That is, from my recollection of some of the discussions that we've had here at the board table, when leaves of absence are coming up for us to approve, I know we've frequently had conversations here about whether it was appropriate for us to approve or not approve, and what authority did we even have to not approve a leave of absence. So I think this policy now reflects a more streamlined approach that's appropriate, that, you know, the Board of Education does not have to approve each individual leave of absence. We leave that to our administrative staff.
Is there a time frame associated with the leave of absence as for how long they're going to be gone?
I believe that's already covered in our policy, but this
Well, that's why I was wondering, because
Yeah.
does that contradict that then?
No.
I mean, my understanding was that there has been the policy in effect that there could be no more than a 2-year
Right.
maximum
Right.
for leave of absence. And so what was happening was, you get to the 2 year, and then it come before us,
Right.
and the question was,
Or no, it was coming to us before that. It came to us
Each,
when
each of the
Oh,
2
you're
years.
right.
each
Right.
staff member asked for a year
Agree,
off.
yeah.
We would have to approve the year off.
but the enforcement of the 2 year ultimately came to us,
Right.
which we don't necessarily have to do.
And that 2-year time frame would still live. It's just in the hands of the administrative team to manage those requests and approvals rather than having that come to the board table.
Our only other question would be if you wanted updates on who's taking them, we could share them, obviously.
So I think one, just on the same topic, and this was before you had gotten here, Mr. Irvine, we did discuss, it's probably been, might have been a year ago, sometime in that time frame, about reviewing the 2-year and whether or not there's a tiered approach to years of service or some combination thereof of leaves of absences that are granted. Does that sound familiar?
It does to me. I remember we've talked about it a number of times, so the history on that, because we've talked about this before too, is it was 10 years ago, we switched to the 2 years, because prior to that, 11 years ago, there was no cap at all. So we had people on leave for 22 years, 17 years, which I don't know why anybody would hold an employee for 2 decades and then think they're gonna come back and work. So we went to 2 years. As a board, we talked about it at a committee of a whole meeting and set that as our standard, based on the fact that we felt that in a 2-year period, an employee could make a realistic decision on whether or not they wanted to come back and teach. And it gave them enough time if they had stayed home with their child. That was the other part of that. So that's why we kept it at 2.
But that doesn't guarantee them their position back.
Nobody's guaranteed any positions anymore. When right to assignment came in about 4 or 5 years ago, we place people where we need them to be highly qualified.